let's get back into history, shall we? The Montreal Canadiens stay at the top. And it is an impressive run, and I understand it's a 6-team league, but when you look at all the turmoil going on here, the fact that Montreal is consistent, that in a season where they only get 4 playoff games out of Rocket Richard and he gets 0 points this season, and they're still where they are. The impressive thing is goal differential in this season. Montreal 39, 18, and 13. They have 258 goals for and 158 against. They are the only team in the league that scores more goals than they allow that season. That's it. I'll go on the record and say that's the only time that's ever happened. Has to be. There's no way that's happened before or since. Boston, 32, 29, and 9. 205 goals for, 215 against. That's as close as you're going to get. Chicago, 28, 29, and 13. 197 goals for, 208 against. So a minus 10 here, minus 11 here. Look who's a minus 12. Toronto at 27, 32, and 11. 189 goals for, 201 goals against. At a minus 16, the New York Rangers, 26, 32, and 12. 201 goals for, 217 goals against. The hell happened to Detroit? Like, seriously. Trading out Ted Lindsay and Glenn Hall really didn't appear to help them. They're 25, 37, and 8. They missed the playoffs. They score 167 goals, and they allow 218. So they're starting to reap the benefits of those trades, where they've just thrown players at Chicago. Well, Chicago's finally started getting better. Finally makes the playoffs. And Chicago is going to be the one that stops this streak right here. But not this season. Punch Imlach is in as the Leafs GM, and eventually he's the coach too, because he gets tired of Billy Ray. Fires Billy Ray and takes over as coach. The Rangers imploded big time. They only won 3 of the last 20 games they played that season. In fact, with 5 games left, they had a 7-point lead on Toronto, the team they would finish 1 point behind to miss the playoffs. That is an epic failure, and it is the kind of meltdown that a team doesn't recover from easily. And of course, the New York Rangers were well out from 1940, but we're nowhere near 1994 either, so it's going to be a pretty dark time for the Rangers for a while. June 8th, 1958, Toronto drafts Johnny Bower from New York Rangers Cleveland affiliate. So drafting him, they signed him. They pick up Johnny Bower, which of course is going to lead them to greatness later, not yet. Jean Beliveau sets a new record for centers. He scores 91 points, which is a record for centers in a season. And Dickie Moore, not to be outdone, sets a new record with 96 points in a season. So Moore not a center, and Beliveau is. Everything's coming up Montreal. Really, really is. And the Habs are the first team to continue a dynasty to 4. We'll get to that 4. 4 straight Stanley Cups. And it's not done yet. It's not. Hart Trophy goes to Andy Bathgate of the New York Rangers, even though they missed the playoffs. The Hart Trophy goes to Dickie Moore of the Montreal Canadiens. The Norris Trophy goes to Tom Johnson of the Montreal Canadiens, which could mean Doug Harvey has to have retired, right? Because he won every other one, it seems. The Calder goes to Ralph Backstrom of the Montreal Canadiens. The Vezina goes to Jacques Plante of the Montreal Canadiens. So they just kind of dominated the trophies. The Lady Byng goes to Alex Delvecchio of Detroit. I assume he gets Lady Byng because with 25 wins in 70 games, he didn't start punching people. That's got to be what it is. In the playoffs, Montreal and Chicago meet in the first round. Montreal wins 4-2. They win 5-1, so they win both at home. But Chicago returns the favor. The Blackhawks win 4-2 and 3-1. Montreal then wins at home 4-2. So the first 5 games are won at home, which means Game 6. Montreal wins on the road. They win 5-4 to wrap up the series in 6. Toronto plays Boston. And Boston at this point, while they may look good here, they're not really built for winning right now. And Toronto exposes that eventually. Boston wins both games at home, 5-2 or 5-1 and 4-2. Toronto then wins both games at home in overtime, both by a score of 3-2. Toronto then goes in and beats Boston in Boston 4-1. Boston, not to be outdone, wins in Toronto 5-4, but Toronto wins in Boston 3-2. So some home ice non-advantage in that series, and Toronto wins the series in 7, which sets up Toronto and Montreal. We now live in a world where Toronto and Montreal don't meet in the playoffs anymore, but in this part of history, we start seeing it happen enough that it's a pretty solid rivalry. And Montreal wins this side of the rivalry. They win 5-3. They win 3-1 at home. Toronto then wins in overtime in Game 3 to make it a series, but Montreal wins 3-2 in Toronto in Game 4, and then closes it out at home with a 5-3 win. And that's with no Maurice Richard help whatsoever. Henri Richard, on the other hand, pretty big help. Dickie Moore, name your Hall of Famer. They're probably playing for Montreal right now, with the exception of some angry Detroit Red Wings. And some up-and-coming Maple Leafs. And Bobby Hull, at this point, isn't showing what he's going to be yet. He comes into the league. He had 47 points the year before this one. He had 50 points this year. Bobby Hull is about to arrive in a big way. And his presence, along with what Ted Lindsay's been able to impart on this team, has started to make Chicago a much more competitive and respectable team. But there you go. There's today's history, and this brings us up to 1959, so it ends out the 50s. We're starting the 60s tomorrow, and we're getting closer and closer to that modern era. We're only 8 years out from expansion as it stands right now, and even while we've got 6 teams here, the pressure to expand is there, and we've got 6 NHL owners that are like, no, we like our exclusive little club, and we don't want to expand. And they're going to get forced within 8 days of videos now. They're going to get forced to expand. It wasn't a matter of the NHL saying, oh, yeah, no, yeah, we want to have 12 teams. It was, we have to do this, or we risk becoming a league with a really, really, really strong rival. So you got to do what you got to do. And then they ended up with a really strong rival anyways. And we'll get into that as well within the next 10, 11 days. But there you go. Thank you guys so much for watching. Hit like and subscribe if you're browsing your way through. You're just having fun with this video. And I'll talk to you guys again soon.